You could be sitting on the edge of losing your supplemental security income right now, and you might not even know it because of a number that hasn't moved in 37 years. If you've got $2,000 in the bank, just $2,000, the government can cut off the check you depend on to survive. And before you scroll past this thinking it doesn't apply to you, stay with me for just a few minutes, because what I'm about to explain could be the difference between keeping your benefits and losing them overnight. If you care about protecting what you've earned, hit that subscribe button right now, because this channel exists to tell you the truth nobody else bothers to explain, and you deserve to know exactly where you stand. I know what it's like to feel like the system was built to confuse you on purpose. You worked your whole life, you paid into these programs, and now when you finally need them, you're stuck trying to decode rules written in language that feels like it was designed by someone who never had to worry about paying rent or buying groceries. You check your mail with a knot in your stomach, wondering if this is the month they decide you don't qualify anymore. You've heard whispers about asset limits, about resource tests, about losing your benefits over having too much savings. But nobody sits you down and explains it in plain English. That ends today, because I'm going to walk you through exactly what the SSI asset limit is, why it's stuck at a number that made sense back when gas cost under $1 a gallon, and what's actually happening in Washington right now that could change your life. Here's something that's going to make your blood boil, and I promise I'll explain the whole thing before we're done. There is a number sitting quietly in a piece of legislation right now, a number that could be the difference between you living in fear every time your bank balance ticks up and you finally being able to breathe. I'm not going to tell you that number yet. First, you need to understand exactly how the current rule traps people, because once you see it clearly, you'll understand exactly why this fight in Congress matters so much to you and to every senior like you. So let's start with the basics, the way your neighbor down the street would explain it to you over coffee. Supplemental Security Income, or SSI, is a program for seniors and people with disabilities who have very limited income and very limited resources. Now, resources is just a fancier word for what you own. Your savings account, your checking account, stocks, bonds, extra property, things that could be turned into cash. The Social Security Administration looks at what you have on the first day of every single month, and if it's above a certain line, you're cut off. That line, for an individual, is $2,000. For a married couple, it's $3,000. And here's the part that should make you sit up straight. That number was set back in 1989. 1989. Think about what things cost back then compared to now. A loaf of bread, a gallon of milk, rent on a one-bedroom apartment. Everything has gone up, sometimes doubled or tripled. But that asset limit has been frozen in place for over 3.5 decades, like it's stuck behind glass in a museum nobody bothered to update. Let that sink in for a second. If that $2,000 limit had simply kept pace with inflation, with the rising cost of everything you buy, it would be sitting well above $5,000 today. Some experts say if you go all the way back to when the program started in 1972 and adjust for inflation properly, that number should really be closer to $10,000. But it's not. It's still $2,000, the exact same number it was when your grandkids weren't even born yet. Maybe when you yourself were still working a job and paying into the system that was supposed to protect you later. Now, here's what this actually means for you in real life. And this is where I want you to really pay attention, because this is where people get blindsided. Let's say you're doing everything right. You're careful, you're frugal, but then something happens. You get a small tax refund, or a family member sends you a little money to help out, or you finally save up a few $100s for an emergency, something responsible people are always told to do. If that pushes your total countable resources over $2,000, even for a single day, even by $50, you can lose your entire SSI payment for that month. Not reduced, gone. And if it happens again, you could be looking at a much bigger problem, including having to pay back money the government now says you weren't entitled to. Can you imagine being punished actually punished for trying to build a tiny cushion in case your refrigerator breaks or you need new tires? This is the trap so many seniors fall into without even realizing it. You're told your whole life to save money, to be responsible, to plan ahead. And then the very program that's supposed to help you when you have almost nothing turns around and penalizes you the moment you have anything at all. It's like being told you can't step out of a rowboat because the second you do, you'll sink. Except the rowboat is your entire financial safety net, and stepping out means you finally saved $500 for a rainy day. I want you to know something else, because it connects directly to that number I promised to tell you. This isn't a secret complaint whispered in the shadows. Major advocacy organizations, the kind of groups that fight for people just like you, have been sounding the alarm on this for years. Groups like Justice and Aging, the National Council on Disability, and even AARP have all publicly said the same thing. This asset limit is outdated, it's cruel, and it needs to change. And it's not just advocacy groups anymore. Right now, sitting in Congress, there is a bipartisan bill called the SSI Savings Penalty Elimination Act. Bipartisan means both parties, Republicans and Democrats, actually agreeing on something for once. And what this bill proposes is nothing short of life-changing for people on SSI. Here it comes, the number I promised you. This bill would raise the individual asset limit from $2,000 all the way up to $10,000. For couples, the limit would jump from $3,000 to $20,000. Think about what that would mean for your life. Instead of living in constant fear that a little extra money in your account could cost you your entire monthly check, you could actually build a real emergency fund. You could save for a car repair without panicking. You could accept a little help from your kids without worrying it might trigger a benefits review. And on top of raising the limit, this bill would also index it to inflation going forward, which means it would never again get frozen in place for 37 years while the cost of everything else keeps climbing around it. Now, I know some of you are wondering, has this passed yet? Can I count on this right now? And I have to be honest with you, because that's what you deserve from me. As of right now, this bill is still working its way through Congress. It has not become law yet. The $2,000 limit is still what you're living under today, this very month. But here's why this still matters enormously to you, even before it passes. The more seniors who understand this issue, the more pressure builds on lawmakers to actually move this bill forward instead of letting it collect dust in some committee room. Every senior who shares this information, every senior who calls their representative, every senior who simply understands what's at stake adds weight to a movement that's already got real momentum behind it. While we wait for that change, there are things you need to understand right now to protect yourself under the current rules, because you cannot afford to get caught off guard. Not everything you own counts against that $2,000 limit. Your home, the one you live in, does not count, no matter how much it's worth. One vehicle, the car you actually use, is typically excluded as well. Personal belongings, household goods, your wedding ring, none of that counts against you. And if you or a loved one qualifies because a disability began before the age of 46, there's something called an ABLE account, which lets you save up to $100,000 specifically for disability-related expenses without it counting against your SSI resource limit at all. That's a tool that far too few families even know exists, and it could be the difference between financial panic and financial breathing room for someone you love. I also need you to hear this clearly, because I don't want anyone watching this to make a mistake out of fear. Do not try to get rid of money or give away assets just to stay under the limit. I know it might seem like a clever workaround, but the Social Security Administration has strict rules about transferring resources for less than they're worth. And if they catch it, you could be looking at a penalty period where you're ineligible for benefits for up to 3 years. That's not a shortcut. That's a trap of its own. The smarter move is understanding exactly what counts, what doesn't, and working within the real rules while this legislation makes its way through the process. Here's the truth I want you to walk away with today. You spent decades working, paying taxes, contributing to a system you were told would be there for you. You are not asking for a handout. You are asking for what you already earned, what you're already entitled to. delivered without a rule book that seems designed to trip you up. The $2,000 limit isn't just an inconvenient number on a government form, it's a policy stuck in 1989, while your life, your bills, and your needs exist firmly in 2026. You deserve a system that reflects the world you're actually living in, not the world that existed before some of your own grandchildren were born. So here's what I'm asking you to do. If this information mattered to you, if it made you feel even a little more informed, a little more prepared, a little less alone in trying to figure this out, then subscribe to this channel right now. This isn't just about watching one more video. It's about making sure you never miss the next update on this bill, on COLA changes, on Medicare rules, on every single dollar the system owes you that you might be missing right now without even knowing it. And please, don't keep this to yourself. Share this video with your spouse, with your sister, with your best friend from church, with anyone in your life who's living on SSI or worried about a parent who is. Because the more of us who understand exactly how this system works, the harder it becomes for anyone to keep us in the dark. You've earned every bit of the respect and the security this program was built to give you, and I'm going to keep showing up right here to make sure you get it.